Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second lecture for environmental impact assessment, environmental auditing, and introduction to environmental law. Last week, we started the class with a general introduction about environmental impact assessment, what the environment is all about, and the need for us to have environmental management. So today we'll continue with environmental audit. However, before to understand the development of the concept of environmental audit, we first need to understand the relationship between an organization, a company, and the environment in which they operate. Sometimes the activity of a company can be on a micro scale or on a macro scale. Sometimes the activity of a company can be global, while some it can be local. So that means the activity of that company can affect in a small scale, or it can also affect in a large scale. It depends on how large the activity of that company is. The relationship of an organization is in two ways. That means the activity of an organization with environment is pari passu. Environment can affect the activity of an organization, while an organization can affect the environment in which it works or in which it operates. Some can be direct, some can be indirect. So let's look at it. The relationship is in two ways, with each having the ability to affect one other. An organization can affect the environment, so also an environment can also affect or direct the way which an organization operates. There are direct effects and there are indirect effects. For example, accidental spill of oil from a refinery may cause pollution of the water course. Local air quality may decrease due to emission released from the oil refinery stack. Water and energy consumption can also increase. That is a direct effect from the activity of the industry. Also, there could be indirect effects. That means the product of the company can cause an indirect effect to the environment. A refinery that comes with different petrochemical products that can be used to manufacture plastic. If there are no regulations in place to manage the plastic has an indirect effect on the environment. We know that plastic is the one that is causing the environmental degradation, but the plastics come as a byproduct of the refinery. So that is an indirect effect of the activity of the refinery on the environment. Traffic generated by employee of the refinery may also contribute to pollution or degradation of the local road. So there's an industry that is far away or that is in a remote area. Before the industry commences, the road is very narrow and it's motorable. But immediately the company starts operation, what happens? There's high traffic movement and it affects the road. So it is the activity of the refinery that is indirectly affecting the road. So waste produced from the refinery can also cause an indirect effect to the environment or to the community. So you can see that a company activity or an organization activity can have direct effect on the environment, and it also can have indirect effects on the environment. So also, the environment can also affect an organization. As an organization or as a company can affect the environment, so also the environment can also affect the activity of the company. Let's look at this. Climate change and its relationship to fossil fuel can make people to move away from company that produces fossil fuel, petrol. Most people are using hybrid cars now. So because they are using hybrid cars, they will be less dependent on petroleum products. There are solar cars going around and there are electric cars. So if people decided that, okay, in UK now, or in some Scandinavian country, by 2025, 2050, they are phasing out fossil fuel. So which means company that produces fossil fuel will go into bankruptcy because they will produce and nobody will use it. So you can see that because we want to save the environment, the activity of saving the environment is affecting the organization. Also, laws can be, organization or countries can come up with law to protect the environment. And when laws come to protect the environment, companies who don't have the ability to key into that law can be sanctioned. So which means in order to protect the environment, the activity or the means by which we use to protect the environment can affect the company's performance. Those governing air pollution may place restriction upon an industry and require capital outlay for new equipment. So if Nigerian government comes and says, we want company to reduce their CO2 emission by 100%. If the normal CO2 emission now is 50, and we want them to reduce it by half, that means by 25%. And most of the industry don't have the basic equipment to reduce it. That means the company have to do what? Invest. And investing in pollution abatement facility will cost what? Will cost money. And that will affect the company. So historically, environmental problems have often been pari passu. It has always been a cost for business. It has also been a cost for the environment. Pollution of rivers and water caused by sewage generated within urban contributes as long problem, and also the growth in CFC or presence of dioxin in food chain or hazardous material are evidence of industrial activity that is what causing problem to the environment. The first National Public Pollution Control Agency, the Akali Inspectorate, was established in Britain in 1863. Basically, this was established to control atmospheric emission from the caustic industry. And because different things are put in place to control the activities of industry on the environment, that is why there is need for every industry to put in place mechanism to check their activities against the parameters of the environment. And that's where environmental audit comes into place. An environmental audit is a process of reviewing activities and record against standards, which means a company will look at its activities and check whether its activity is intended with a standard set by a local agency or international organization that it operates in. According to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency National Guideline on Environmental Audit, environmental audit is defined as a management tools consisting of systematic, documented, periodic, and objective evaluation of environmental performance, management system, and equipment with the aim of, firstly, facilitating management control of environmental practice. Secondly, assessing compliance with an operation or activity environmental policy, which include meeting regulatory requirements. So we are saying environmental audit is the process by which it's a systematic process, but it's also documented, and it is carried out periodically to evaluate environmental performance of an organization within its working environment. It is a systematic, that means it's a step by step, and it is normally documented. And you should carry it out periodically. Don't say, we did our audit last year, we are not going to do it this year. No, that is not an audit. An audit should be periodical. And it is set against a standard. It can also be defined as a process of reviewing activities and records against standard or procedure to establish what is being done, how far the process is complying with requirements. Let me give example. If a manufacturing industry, a steel manufacturing industry that is involved in producing tanks is located within a residential area, one of the key environmental components of that industry will be noise. While they are holding the tank, while they are welding, while the workers are eating, noise will be generated. So if that industry is within a residential environment and the noise level within a residential environment is 50 decibel, that means that industry activity must be within 50 decibel. So it must put every steps in place to ensure that what? My noise level is within 50 decibel. So how will it put measure in place to make sure that the noise level is within 50 decibel? That means he has to do periodic checking. That means it has to do periodic checking. There must be noise level to measure the level of noise meter to measure the level of noise. And these have to be done periodically. And it has to be recorded and checked against standard to see whether it is what? They are complying or they are not complying. What are the objectives of an environmental audit? Why do we do an environmental audit? First, to gather information. The first is to gather information on the facility process, potential risk, and management procedure. Gather information on the facility process, potential risk, and management procedure. Let me explain first about the process. The process of manufacturing a beer, the process of manufacturing beer involves a lot of fermentation and mixture. So when they ferment and they mix the sorghum and add a little alcohol, they will discharge the wastewater, or they will discharge the waste. If the waste they are discharging has a lot of high content of alcohol, that shows that instead of the materials, instead of the product they want to produce is having the alcohol is going out as what? As waste. So you can see that an audit can help you to check whether your process is actually working fine. Also, it can also help to check potential risk. What are we releasing into the environment? What are we releasing into the environment? A company that is manufacturing hazardous materials, and it's bought a new machine that says it can capture all the emissions and cap it. All of a sudden, neighboring plants around the companies start turning yellow. If they will not know that the plant will be turning yellow, because the plant will not turn yellow immediately. But if there is a system in place to check if the emission is being captured or not, the audit can help us to check the potential risk. Also, there are processes within an industry, like a sewage treatment plant now. A sewage treatment plant has about 4 steps. There is the extraction of solid materials, there's primary treatment, there's secondary treatment, and there's tertiary treatment, which is the chlorination. However, within that process, there are steps you take. You check whether the process is working fine. That is also an audit. Also, an audit can be for a better management of resources and improve environmental performance. better management of resources and improve environmental performance. If a company design its work process to use 50 kilogram of limestone, a cement industry design its process to use 50 kilogram of limestone for manufacturing of 10 bags, and they keep on adding the limestone. If there's no audit process, they will not be able to know whether they are using 50 kilogram or they are using more. But if they audit the process, they will know whether they are doing that or they will not do that. So it is important sometimes environmental audit can be used to check better management of resources and improve environmental performance. Also, I'll give you another example. If a company says, okay, as a company, we are committed that we will not release hazardous materials into the environment from our process. But if they don't check it, how would they know that they are releasing or they are not releasing? So environmental audit help us to check whether we are managing resources and also check whether our environmental performance is okay. The third one is ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Every industry has its own standard. Every sector has its own standard. The amount of dissolved oxygen that can be in your water, the amount of chlorine, the amount of lead, the amount of CO2 you can release. So in Nigeria now, there is what you call environmental standard for every sector. There's environmental standard for petroleum industry. There's environmental standard for steel industry. There's environmental standard for cement industry. There's environmental standard for churches. So if the environmental standard for churches says the noise level of a church within a residential area cannot be more than 50 decibels, which means that church have to put abatement in place. It's either you soundproof your church or you don't use speakers outside so that your noise level can be within your facility. So we carry out an audit. If the church don't have a noise meter to check their noise, how would they know whether the noise they are during their service, how would they know that the noise is within 50 decibels? So that means they have to buy a noise meter or somebody have to check periodically if the noise is affecting other residents in the area. So environmental audit is also carried out to ensure compliance with regulatory standard. If we don't go after churches, but government officials, we normally go after industries. We normally go after commercial premises. Why? Because every organization has a commitment for a better environment. Every organization has a commitment to a better environment. So we need to go after them. Also, encourage organizations to regulate their own environmental practice. As a worker, nobody prays to go to work and die. Nobody prays to go to work and you don't come back to your house. So everybody always wants to work. Workers want to work in a company that shows commitment to environment, commitment to safety and health of workers. So if you show your environmental audit to your workers and says that, okay, in the past 3 years, there's no injury, there's no fatality, there's no case of death in our industry, and we are paying 50,000. But our sister or our competitive company is paying 80,000. But last year they lost 5 workers. 2 years ago, 10 people died. As a worker, which one will you want to choose? Do you want to choose a company that pay more and have loss of lives? Or you want to choose a company that have a good environmental practice and pay a small wages? So sometimes encouraging organizations to regulate the environmental practice is for the sake of lives of workers. So we know that we have seen the objective of an audit and why audit is very, very important. So what types of environmental audit do we have? There are three basic types of environmental audit. There is self-audit, there is internal audit, and there is external audit. So there are various types of audit. There is self-audit, there is internal audit, and there is what we call external audit. A self-audit involves the audit being carried out by a selected member of a team from a unit by which an audit is to be carried out. A self-audit is an audit that is carried out by a member of a team from the unit where the audit is to be carried out. We have about let's say we have about 5 different departments in an organization. We have the HSC, we have the traffic control, we have the regulatory control. So if we want to carry out a self-audit in the environmental department, as somebody within the environmental department is carrying out the audit, that is what we call a self-audit, because it's part of the member of that unit or that department. But if we call somebody from the traffic section, or we call somebody from the human resources to come and help us to audit environmental unit, that is an internal audit, because that person that we are calling from another department or another unit is still part of the member of that company. That is what we call an internal audit. This involves the audit carried out by a selected member of staff from various units of an organization to audit a particular unit, but not the units being audited. So you see, there is a difference between a self-audit or internal audit. The last one is what we call external audit. The last one is called external audit. External audit. This involves the audits carried out by selected team from outside the establishment and may be assisted by an employee of the organization being audited. So that's why they will tell us that external auditors are coming, consultants are coming, or regulators are coming to come and check us. What they are doing what? An external audit. It is important to, especially where a third party is coming to benchmark and neutrality is what is required. Most people feel when government officials are coming to do check, or when they ask them to hire a consultant to help them to audit their organization, they will always have what? Problem. No, they will not have problem. The problem is that you feel when they expose or they tell you your inadequacy, they will use it against you. No, that is not it. An external audit is an audit that is carried out by an external audit, an audit that is carried out by a different person that's not a part of the organization. It can either be a consultant or a regulator. So we've seen that we have types of audit. We have self-audit, we have internal audit, and we have what? External audit. However, environmental audit can be classified on what is due to be audited in an organization. So we now want to see the types of audit that can be carried out. There could be what we call regulatory compliance audit. There could be process safety audit. There could be occupational health audit. There could be liability audit, and there could be management audit. That's what we call regulatory compliance audit, process safety audit, occupational audit, and liability audit, and management audit. Liability audit, management audit, occupational audit, process safety audit, and regulatory compliance audit. So let's expatiate on them. A regulatory compliance audit is used to help to check a company or a facility compliance in relation to the current environmental regulations, laws, and requirements. a regulatory compliance, like the English, like the term says, regulatory compliance. That means there's a regulation by which you must comply to. So there's a regulation by which you must comply to. So when a regulatory compliance audit comes, they want to check how far you have been able to comply with the regulation in place. This is important for all companies in Nigeria because the national guidelines on environmental audits identify the various aspects by which a company must must comply to. The frequency of this type of audit varies. It could be quarterly in-house, it could be biannual for external auditor, or at is when it is required. In Lagos, LASEPA, which is Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, require that every company carry out a compliance audit and submit the report every year, which means you have to do a regulatory an environmental audit of your facility and submit the report for review by LASEPA every year. So which means that gives LASEPA the chance to come to your company at least minimum twice in a year. Minimum twice in a year. They will come and check your organization, let's say around March or April. So when you submit your audit before September, they will now come back late, let's say October, November, December. So check what they have a record in the earlier part of the year, the audit you submitted, to come and confirm whether you have taken part, whether you have corrected the audit that the checks they have. So that is what regulatory compliance audit is all about. A process safety audit. This type of audit identifies the health and safety issues in the company process. So every company has a process. So a process safety audit is to check your process line, to check the way you do your work, and find out what are the inherent health, safety, and environment risk, and try to put mitigation measure in it. It identifies the hazard and quantify the risk arising from the process. The process safety audit looks into the management procedure for accidents and emergency. The audit is carried out in compliance to law regarding health and safety best practices. So if for workers working in food industry, or working in a process line, the workers must have their gloves. They must cover their face and their mouth. They must use scarf or head cover, because what their process line is food, and the food can be contaminated with any liquid, sweat, or droplets from their body. So a process audit wants to check whether you put all these things in place. A process audit will also want to check whether you test your workers properly. Last section, I gave an example of like a steel industry in Amuwodofi. The steel industry, one of the key health safety guides for steel, aluminum, and platinum industry is that the workers must be given liquid milk at least every 6 or 12 hours during their work process. So the workers will not take the milk, they will sell it back to the human resource manager. They will not take the milk, they will take it back to the human resource manager. So when Federal Ministry of Environment requested for the blood test of the workers, they find out that there are high level of heavy metal in the bloodstream of the workers. And the company shows that they normally give the workers milk every day. So if they follow the industrial best practice that says workers should take milk every day, the level of metals in their bloodstream should not be as high as that. However, what happened? When the human resource manager gives the workers milk, the workers, instead of them opening it and drinking it, they will sell it back to the human resources manager. The human resources manager tomorrow give them the milk back. So until the company decided to set a CCTV camera, that is when they find out that instead of the worker drinking the milk, they are what? They are reselling it back to the human resources manager. If the audit, if the health check was not properly carried out, nobody will know that that is what is happening. The system is hanging. Oh, why are you hanging? We have less than 10 minutes and the system is hanging, so I will continue offline. So the next one is occupational health audit. This is the type of audit that investigates issues that concern the occupational exposure of workers to pollution. So this is the type of audit that investigates the concern of occupational exposure of workers to pollution, either noise or physical disability. It audits the company staff for protective equipment, clothing, and try to assess whether the staffs are properly educated about it. Liability audit. Liability audit is when a building or facility is to be acquired. It is important to carry out a liability audit so that to know or a certain environmental problem that could arise. Because if you want to buy a company, and you don't know that that company has been manufacturing hazardous material at that location. If you don't carry out a liability audit, you take up the facility and your neighbor find out that its underground water is polluted by the activity of the company. You don't say, no, you just take over the company. No, you will be responsible because you are supposed to carry out a liability audit to find out what are the activity of that company that is affecting the environment. The management audit is important as it looks at the environmental management issue of a facility. Assess the company hierarchy policy. What are the company policy? Some company, their policy is just to make money. They don't care whether the activity affects the environment. They don't care whether the activity affects the environment. They don't care whether it has problem or not. Their own is just to make money. So a management audit looks at the company, not only the activity of the company, it looks at the corporate social responsibility of the company. It's working relationship with its environment. It's working relationship within the environment with which it works. That is what a management audit is all about. So in conclusion, environmental audit is a tool which is used in carrying out environmental responsibility by evaluating and monitoring financial, production performance. The various types of audits available enable management to specify an area that needs to be audited, and it also helps you to gather information, measure against standard, and be on the path of the law. A lot of companies loses a lot of money when government shuts them down. So when you do an audit, it helps you to look at all the problems you have. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Any question? Any question? We have 5 more minutes. Any question? Okay. If there is no question, assignment. Assignment. Can we get our biro and a paper? I have assignment for you.
Assignment.
Mommy, assignment. Ẹ sọ pé a ṣiṣẹ́ online. Class lawa.
No. Mo ń bá staff mi kan sọ̀rọ̀ ni.
Okay, okay. So, are we ready? Let's write the question down.
No, office bag me. That my laptop flat bag.
Are we set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In relationship to International Labour Organization.
In relationship with?
In relationship to International Labour Organization standard. Or using International Labour Organization standard, what types of audits should a cement factory carried out within a year? In relationship to International Labour Organization standard, what types of audits should a cement manufacturing company carried out in a year? Submit latest Friday via email. My email is ladedoing@gmail.com. Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Using International Labour Organization standard, what types of audits should a cement manufacturing company carried out within a year to safeguard lives of its workers? To be submitted Friday. Send your answers to my email, ladedoing@gmail.com. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next Saturday. Stay safe. Bye. That's the end of the class.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ẹ kú gbádùn o. Ẹ kú sinmi.
Ìsinmi ṣàwó.
Ṣé ò pọ̀?
Iṣẹ́ pọ̀ o.
Kí ló dé tí iṣẹ́ ṣe pọ̀?
Iṣẹ́ pọ̀ seriously o. Iṣẹ́ pọ̀ seriously o.
Ẹ ṣáà ti padà sékòó.
Mo ti dẹ́kọ̀ bọ̀ mi ìjókòó sójú kan náà ni.
Ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́, Ọlọ́run fún alálàáfíà.
Àmì sẹ́yọ̀rá sà.
Mr. David, yes, how are you? Who is using Phantom 6? Mr. Adeya, good day, sir. How life? You are enjoying, you know? Okay, I say you dey enjoy. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you next Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Oga, well done, oh.
Thank you.
We thank God, oh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.